SnowTrax is sponsored by Ski-Doo, Yamaha revs your heart, and by FXR Racing, world-class outerwear.
Last year I got the opportunity to head out to BC, a place that I don't ever ride mountain sleds in, and go on an adventure with Carl Kuster from CKMP. The area in BC, just outside of Sycamus, was so different where you could ride. I mean, it wasn't just like go up into the mountains and it's deep powder. It was go up into the mountains and there's wicked cool bowls, there's super treed-in sections, and then there's also just the extreme sheer cliff, super steep, super deep stuff as well.
When AJ got back from his ride with Carl Kuster in BC last year, he told me all these crazy stories about the awesome things that they did while they were there. As soon as I saw the type of terrain they were riding in and how extreme it was and some of the things Carl pushed AJ to do, it immediately became my goal and focus to go out and do exactly the same thing.
Snowmobiling started for me at a pretty young age. I remember with my dad, I was maybe 10 or maybe 9, I don't know, I was pretty young. Just rode around home, small farm town, Alberta. But in the 90s, I'd seen a tape, all-terrain racing or something like that, with this snowcross stuff on there. And I thought it looked kind of fun, so I thought I'd try it. A lot of people think that I was always a snowcross racer and then went mountain riding. I was a mountain rider for probably 15 years before I even seen a snowcross sled. I just had raced snowcross for a few years and had some success at it, and really moved back into the mountains, and that's where I was always in my element, and that's where I felt the most natural, was always in the mountains. It was never in snowcross. I remember it clearly when I went to the mountains and looking out the window as a little kid and seeing how high the snowbanks were, and it looked surreal. It looked like some crazy dream, you know, that there was that much snow. That no matter what, if it was cold or if it was nasty or how much work it was, I always wanted to just go and ride in that deep snow. We bought this property in about 2004 or 5. Basically, it was going to be a retirement project for my dad. As time went by, I came here, spent a lot of time, you know, fix this, fix that, and it just turned into like a destination for all my buddies. I just thought it was pretty cool that we could, you know, with some changes and some tweaks, we could turn it into something that I could really bring a lot more people out and really show people the mountains.
I was really excited this season to go back to CKMP because Carl's ride area is so diverse and so different than anything else I've ridden. It truthfully is a mountain park. It gives you so many different experiences that really nowhere else can. I knew that after riding last season with Carl and pushing myself really past where I thought I was capable, trained me to become a better rider, and I knew that I was going to go out and force Luke to do a couple of those things too.
I was excited to ride in the Sycamus area with Carl in particular because Obviously, I'd heard AJ's stories. I'd heard all the crazy things that Carl had coaxed him to do and taught him how to do. But I also know that that area of BC is spectacular. It is a mountain riding paradise. Carl's setup in particular is quite private, so the places he rides aren't really tracked up. They're not really accessed by a lot of people. So he basically guarantees that you're going to find fresh powder and untracked areas. So I was pretty excited to be the first one to make some lines in some fresh snow.
First area that we rode in was the Burn, and I had ridden this last season and really enjoyed it because you kind of get thrown right into it. I mean, it's spindly trees that are all burned off. That's why they call it the Burn, from a forest fire, and nothing but deep powder in between.
It was an extreme spot to ride, to say the least. Riding in an open field is one thing where there's really no consequences. Even on the side of a steep hill where there's no trees, you feel like you've got some breathing room. Two things became very evident. First, that's tough to do. It's tough to be good riding in a tight treat area like the Burn.
I should have turned out just 2 feet sooner and I would have made it back down.
And two, Carl Kuster is an incredible backcountry rider because he was slaying it through the trees like there was no trees. Everything he does is so extreme, and he does it in such an extreme aggressive way that you're just waiting for the ball to drop and everything to fall apart, and it never does.
In the early years, what kept us coming back for more was that we could never get to the top of the hills because the sleds just wouldn't go there. I mean, the long tracks back then were 136, you know, with 1.5 inch paddles, and those were the big sleds. As a kid, I remember just being stuck on the trail. It would take us sometimes 2 days to break 10 kilometers of trail. Didn't take much to outdo your buddy. All you had to do was go another 2 feet and you outdid him, right? And you know, now it's like hundreds of feet.
Mountain riding itself has really, truly changed the last few years. The sleds that manufacturers are delivering right to the showroom floor are so incredibly full of potential. I mean, a Skidoo Summit XM will take you places that truthfully most new riders should not go.
I think one of the things that's really helped push this sport further and further to where it's at today is manufacturers like Skidoo working with innovative backcountry riders like Carl.
My history with Skidoo started in the fall of 2001. Blair Morgan Racing signed with Skidoo, and you know, I just built friendships throughout racing, and then started doing some other marketing work for Skidoo and some riding for them on the side. And I just naturally wanted to help the people, whether it be in the marketing or engineers or whatever, and I could see how I could help them, teach them things for riding, and it was just natural that I just wanted to see them do better. It just turned into what CKMP is now. You know, they send people for product knowledge and product testing basically, and I give people good instruction on how to use the product.
You know, he doesn't apologize for anything that he does or the way he does it. He tells people, and I believe he tells Skidoo the same thing, here's how I ride, here's how this vehicle should handle, here's what you need to change about it to make it work for, you know, for my riding style, for this person's riding style, to get to this point, to do this, to be more comfortable, to last longer. And when companies like Skidoo listen to people like Carl, they can produce vehicles like the Summit XM. And I truthfully believe that's why we have vehicles like that today. Last season, Carl forced me to do a very large, very steep descent that I had never really done before. I'd never done anything like that before. It really forced me, though, to kind of break a barrier of comfort that I knew I needed to get better. And this season, I wanted Luke to do the same thing. And so Carl took us to a similar type place, but actually it was probably a little less steep, but a lot longer to the bottom.
AJ thought it was hilarious because he knew how I was going to feel about it, and Carl was just indifferent to it the way he was with AJ because it's something he does every day. But Carl sent us up to the top and he said, all right, I want you to go up between those trees up there and just drop off the edge and ride down here. The first trip down the side of the mountain was, I can only describe it as out of control because I really didn't know what I was doing.
It was interesting. He was picking along nice and slow the whole time, taking the safe lines, and really you could tell he was super nervous.
After I did it once, after I made it to the bottom and realized I wasn't dead and I was in control, all I wanted to do is do it again. And the second and third time I did it, I was on the gas running down the side of the hill. I was actually accelerating on my side and the snow was coming over the hood and there was a few drifts in the middle where you're kind of just pounding through and the snow's flying everywhere. It was one of the best feelings I've ever had on a snowmobile.
I think what a lot of people don't really understand, or when they first come out there, it's all about the power and the climbing. But then once they ride here for a bit, then they finally get to have the feeling of those really long, cool descents. Once you get a couple of those run, man, it is super addicting, you know. And going up is fun, and that's what snowmobiles really are good at. But coming down is something I think that most people don't anticipate that they're gonna like. They just happen to do it once, and then it just catches them.
It's really hard to predict where the sport of snowmobiling is going because it's progressed so fast in the past 2-3 years. But with people like Carl and other ambassadors to this sport, you can be sure that where it's going is only going to be better than what it is today. Guys like Carl are just absolutely putting their stamp, their DNA on these vehicles, and it's making all of us better riders.
I think mountain riding is on the cusp of a real boom. I think people like Carl making the sport accessible to your average trail rider and being willing to teach them how to ride in the mountains is really going to ignite a passion in people who never would have had the chance to be passionate about mountain riding in the past.
It's not my past experiences that drive me to help develop these new snowmobiles or have input to develop new snowmobiles. I like doing it because I find it's fun and it's intriguing, but really I wanted to do it for my dad. He was a really good rider, but a few years back he started to get sore and he couldn't ride as well as he used to, and he was only 53 at the time. I just wanted to be able to prolong me and my dad riding together in the mountains because we'd rode together for 30 years. my dad being not as strong as he used to be, I just thought, I really want to make a sled that'll prolong their careers. That's the dream that I have now. You know, although my dad won't get to see it, I want it to happen.
If you think of Polaris and backcountry freeriding, the sled that no doubt comes to mind is the Assault. And while it does come in a switchback trail version, the one I'm testing today is the RMK 155-inch. The Assault is far more than just a name, as I'll outline in this test. It's become a brand for Polaris and represents the most extreme corner of mountain riding, with sleds capable of drops, jumps, and terrain you might not have thought possible on a snowmobile. And while it is one badass ride, the industry has caught on and are now producing competitive sleds, giving the Assault a good run for its money. Right out of the gate, my first question is why this sled doesn't come with the quick drive system that all 2014 Pro RMKs come with. It would seem like a natural fit. It's a brilliantly techie piece that not only lightens up the sled, but also reduces effort for side hilling and is simply put maintenance free. With the Assault carrying the reputation of the first off the drop, highest off the hit, and last one to call it a day, I genuinely think the quick drive system should be on this sled. Firstly, for the tangible benefits, but secondly, because this buyer wants it all. With that said, this sled pretty much blows my flippin' mind. Not only makes me look like a total rock star on snow, but it makes shredding it totally easy, yo. The ProRide chassis with carbon fiber overstructure is stronger than steel, lighter than aluminum, and just sounds super pickin' cool. I mean, who doesn't like carbon fiber? At the heart of this beast, the chassis is what sets the stage. And what a job it does, allowing for a near perfect compilation of chassis, suspension, and motor. The word raw to Polaris means a whole lot more than just blue rare, and has become a statement about how far they can physically push the limits of lightweight. Narrowed up tunnel cooling extrusions, carbon fiber rear bumper with extruded aluminum mounts, drilled out snow flap, LED tail light, lightweight single piston caliper with lightweight rotor, and lightweight RMK specific exhaust silencer. Are you hearing what I'm saying? The Assault is raw, and raw is light. So what's all this raw, lightweight talk have to do with the real world handling of the sled, you might ask? In one simple word, everything. You want to rock the powder like a pro rider? The only thing holding you back is your skill. The best in the world can and do push the Assault as hard as they know how, and it continues to come back for more. I found the mixture of reduced weight, slightly shorter track at 155, and the power of the 800 to be a trifecta of epicness. Because this sled is so easily flickable, you can put it where you want to go using minimal physical effort. The sled truly does the work. Walker Evans shocks are on all 4 points of this sled, with 3 of them being their highest end version, the Needles. This snowmobile delivers serious big hit shock performance. Out back, we're working with 16 inches and up front boasts 10, the most offered from the RMK line. While they are capable of insane abuse, I found the baseline settings to be totally competent for my style of riding, soaking up impacts with ease and allowing me to focus on ripping, even if my landings weren't perfect. The torsionless coil-over rear suspension reduces weight in a big way and allows for a nearly infinite amount of rear arm shock preload adjustability. The Assault's equipped with a 2¼ inch competition-style track that's targeted at hill climb racers and backcountry boondocking. The Assault truly isn't the high mark king. It's not focused on going to the top. In fact, it's usually more focused on a smooth transition when you're jumping back down. So a 2.5-inch lug and a 163-inch length isn't required. The focus of this sled is very targeted at those seeking the starting point for a hill climb race sled or backcountry riders looking for the most factory-ready sled to boondock with. While I have outlined many of the specific features of this sled, there's an even larger list of stuff that comes on this ride, making it an incredible value for your buck. One of my favorites would have to be the Pro Taper bars that place the controls right in the sweet spot when standing. Powder track running boards are drilled and sharpened to keep the snow out and your boots locked on. The Pro Light seat is wide, flat, and super easy to transition over when jumping from left to right. And last but not least, the graphics package that truly sets you apart, especially when snow checked. The Assault is a breed of its own, and while I would like to see the quick drive system on this sled, it does fully deliver on its name, and it allows anyone who swings a leg over to fully assault the snow.
SnowTrax has been sponsored by Polaris Terrain Domination, Arctic Cat, share our passion, and by Go Ride Ontario, yours to discover. SnowTrax has been sponsored by Polaris Terrain Domination, Arctic Cat, share our passion, and by Go Ride Ontario, yours to discover.